issues with certain parts of our landscape out there, haven't they been already put on sewers if they're in the forest area, if they're in the Grand Bend area? Like, why have they been allowed to sit right now, today, sort of thing, without having a mandate put on them? Like, why hasn't this municipality had someone come up and say, septic systems are out, by next year we'll have voted in that they're going to go, you need to start assessing where they are. Granted, if you find a subdivision that has 54 homes in, and 30 or 40 of them are failing, you obviously have a major problem in that area. And I'm not arguing that. And I'm not arguing that we need something. I am quite aware of that. But I'm just wondering why, if at this point, septic systems are such an issue, that it isn't mandated that we start going out and getting them tested.
Well, number one, I mean, you have to look at, small septic systems are administered under the building code. Okay, anything less than 10,000 liters a day, your typical home, you mean in that septic system. So any sort of inspection process or certification approvals is all issued by the building official. Okay, they are looking. I mean, they are looking at doing, periodic 5-year review. Walk in, do some preliminary checks to see how things are. I think it's a great idea. I don't know if it's really, it could be a politically sensitive one,
Well, I agree on that. But if it's the reason that we're doing all the things that we're doing, and the system is the best idea to do, how come all along from Tobermory on down to Sarnia, it isn't mandated that everybody has to have an inspection that is handed into the treasurer or into the planning department?
Okay, you're speaking to the wrong. I can speak to some of the systems. Okay, under the building code, you have to speak to the county because I believe they administer the program. Okay.
But is it not the MOE that tells the county?
No, we do not. We do not. Any of the small systems for a home or less than that could possibly generate less than 10,000 liters a day is administered under the building code. Anything over that is with the Ministry of the Environment. And when we issue a permit, there's actually a certificate of approval that is granted under the Ontario Water Resources Act that has a set of, we know exactly what's there, we know how it operates, there is a very stringent monitoring program, and it has to be operated by an operator with an approved license.
Okay. Are there any other communities along the lake shore, anywhere in Canada, that already has this mandate in place?
I believe Huron. In some parts, I think.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was just wondering if you were aware that a number of residents have received notice from the Ministry of Natural Resources that there's been a 5-striped skink identified as a species at risk in Southcott pines, and so it's going to completely it's going to halt any kind of disruption of the wildlife, flora and fauna. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
No, it's just been recently done. So we're now identified as a species at risk area. So that cause problems to installing a sewer system in an area that's species
Well, I certainly think there would have to be provisions taken to protect that species. I mean, I'm not aware of that situation, but if basically you have to weigh things out. If you've got a problem that needs to be rectified, and you have a species at risk that you might be affected by, the installation of sewers or any sort of a project, I don't think you initially say, oh, well, I guess we can't do that because we have that thing there. I would think that you would have to meet, the parties would have to meet. Now, if M&R had a problem with that, they would have to meet with the municipality or whoever the proponent of the works are and work out a program to make sure that everyone's needs are met.
Sorry, follow up. That's my understanding. I'm actually on the St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority that you have to stay 100 meters away from any species at risk. It's not like we can just kind of play around with it. 100 meters in a diameter around it. You cannot go close to it. So that causes a major problem. You can't disrupt the wildlife at all. So it's nice to think we could do provisions, but our hands will be tied if it indeed think, in Southcott Pines, or wherever it's located, I'm not sure. So, that might totally disrupt this. So, if we have to think of another alternative with the septic issue, which, from my understanding, the testing of the 12 wells, there was only one well that showed any elevation, and it wasn't even close to the Ontario provincial drinkable water standards. It was still 5 out of 10. So there's a question whether there is an issue, and we got great water quality testing this year in Lake Huron. We got that report back recently, looked really good. So if we're going to think of something which can work within our limitations with species at risk, would the county be supportive of us doing a sewage inspection system, a septic inspection system, as Councilor Scott has mentioned, that is done consistently and works within our restraints? Would the county be supportive of that?
I'm not with the county, so.
Oh, you're not
I'm
at
not
the
with the
county at
county, no,
all?
I'm with the provincial government.
Yes, but I thought you had some connection to the county as well. Not
I
at all?
work with all kinds of different agencies, and I know the chief building official very well. And I know they would love to run with that program.
Well, okay, they would love to see us institute an inspection system which would address these issues.
That's getting more on the collection system, that's getting on zone 3 and 4, and we're not here today to deal with that. We're here today to deal with the sewage treatment plant, and just anything affluent out of the sewage treatment plant, or what, the lagoons and options for that, more than we are collection system.
Well, yeah, I've read through the environmental assessment report. I've looked at what's been suggested. I know that when dealing with Dillon's and our own approvals people with regards to what they want to approve. And in a situation like this, I mean, I'll put this out to you, there are facultative lagoons, lagoons much the same that you have, out being used, Bedford for an example. Wonderful water quality, because it isn't operating over its limits. Okay, it can do the trick. The problem is that, and I'll even throw this out on the table. If you were just looking at upgrading the sewage works for the existing town of Grand Bend, and you wanted to get better water quality, a new Hamburg system would probably have done your trick. Okay? But now you're talking about, you want to bring in South Huron, Blue Water, and looking at possible growth in Lambton Shores. The volumes you're talking about that come in there and upgrade or say make that now a new Hamburg system, you would probably have to expand the lagoon base tremendously. You would have to expand the sand filters that you want. And what it comes down to, and whether or not it could clean the water up to what the standard has been stated by either the Conservation Authority or our own people, everything gets weighed out. Technology, land base, separation distances, money. So, if you want to throw enough money at anything, you could build a big Sutton or a big new Hamburg system to do the trick. But it might not be economically feasible. That's the whole idea behind the class environmental assessment and going through the environmental study report. Is you look at a bunch of options, and I believe there was probably 5 or 6 options looked at on what you could possibly do. And when you weigh them all out and put it into the equation, one usually pops out.
That's the joint sewer board has gone through that process.
Mhm.
The joint sewer board has looked at those options, and this is where they are right now. John?
I'd just like to thank you, because you brought a very direct story.
Sometimes that's the best way to do it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the way you went about things. You said it straight. You said why. You explained how the process has been in a general way and why you see it the way you did. Because there's been a lot of, to be very honest, in the last 10 years, through the amalgamation and why the things were done. And you started in master planning, bringing all these community